Welcome everyone to Longevity Kitchen.
My back is already hurting me from all the prep. We were very ambitious with our recipes today, so we're going to do a lot of cooking.
We're like, buckle up.
And, yep. And usually when we do a lot of cooking, it gets a little crazy in the kitchen.
It does.
But we'll start with introductions for anybody new. And we'll talk a little bit about Longevity Kitchen and the overview of longevity of long living cultures. And then we'll talk specifically about Loma Linda.
Yes.
Yes. And I just want to make sure that we have the camera. So we're alone in the kitchen. So
we're like, we do it all.
yeah.
We're camera production, camera crew.
Is that blurry?
I don't think it's blurry.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So you'll see us kind of swinging around towards the camera and off camera, and we're hoping to put on a nice show for you today.
So good morning. Welcome to Longevity Kitchen. Today we are exploring long living cultures and qualities, lifestyle that they embody. This is based on our the blue zones of the world, right?
Yes.
And there's a really great cookbook called the Blue Zone Cookbook that we've explored. And I want to share with you some of the lifestyles and behaviors that these long living cultures exhibit that contribute to their health, right?
Yeah.
But
maybe we can learn a thing or two from them.
maybe we can. And so I will introduce myself first, and then Lori will introduce herself. And then we will talk a little bit and cook as quickly as possible, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I have to say, I'm tired even before this whole thing began. Look how much I prepped. I just want you guys to be so proud.
I'm
right?
impressed. I mean,
Yeah.
You did it all.
So anyway, my name is Debbie Kronenberger. I am a clinical counselor, yoga, and meditation teacher. I've worked here at the Cancer Wellness Center since 2006, 2007.
Wow.
And I am our wellness program coordinator also. So I do I have clinical responsibilities and administrative responsibilities and programmatic responsibilities, which I really enjoy. And my specialty are the anxiety disorders through my clinical specialty is through a mindfulness model, helping them manage anxiety through mindfulness, and share a lot of presenting responsibilities with Lori and our oncology dietitian, our rock star. And we all the programs we do are mindfulness based.
Yeah.
And so we do this longevity kitchen series. We've done a mindful kitchen series. We co-facilitate our weight loss for wellness program, which we are currently recruiting for as we speak.
Yes.
For our newest group, which will begin in July.
Yep.
I'm also just started a mindfulness class 6 week. You missed the first class if you didn't come last week, but there's still time if you'd like to come tomorrow at 4:00. And we have a new program coming up, Ryan and I, right?
Yes.
Where we're going to explore immunity boosting.
Yes.
Yeah, it goes through mindfulness and nutrition. I
Yeah.
think I covered that. I covered it all, right? Did I cover it all? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So
As
my
always.
partner, Lori Bombatko.
I love it. Hi, everyone. For those of you who I don't know, I'm an oncology dietitian. I've been at the center since 2015, I believe. So relatively new to the center. But I've been in practice since 2004. I've only ever been passionate about oncology nutrition because I believe that food is more than just nutrition, which is why Debbie and I have this wonderful partnership that connects mind and body, how food has a role in improving our body, our physical health, but also our emotional and psychosocial kind of well-being.
Right.
Food
The
is like this,
holistic approach. to
Yeah.
food, right. All around, mind and body.
mind and body. It's fully holistic. So, and food is this vehicle that can do that as well as connect us to one another. And I really believe in that. So a lot of the individuals that I work with here, it's about really strengthening that relationship to food and utilizing food to bring them to wellness. And so I meet with individuals one-on-one. If you're interested, you're probably eligible for sessions with me. I also, the other majority of my time spent here is in the programming, and I do a lot of them with Debbie. So the kitchen, longevity kitchen here, and then with Lust for Wellness. But I also get to do a lot of other fun nutrition related programs. And so if you check out our YouTube channel, you can see many of them are recorded. So in case you want to enhance your understanding of nutrition, I want to try to be the person to help you do that. So I'm so excited for today's class. This is our third in the series of longevity or long living cultures, where we get to explore, like, what are the habits? What are the behaviors of those individuals that live in those areas of the world that seem to really promote their health? Again, like in a holistic way, right? So they live a long time, right? Long, like longer than most of us do.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
into their hundreds.
Into their hundreds. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But it's a good 100, right? It's not.
Yes.
It's like they're still productive. They're still like members of society.
Mhm.
They're happy and healthy.
Quality of life super high.
Quality of life.
Yes.
And that's so appealing to me, to learn more about what foods they might be enjoying, like that might explain that, but
Right.
also how they approach food. You
Right.
know, what
How they interact with food.
how they interact. See, that's where she comes in. The interaction. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so fascinating to me.
Yeah, and how that contributes to overall health, right?
Yeah.
Like the way we think, the way we interact, right?
Right.
Everything.
Everything. And a lot of it, you know, is because of, I think here, our society doesn't necessarily take that approach. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as it kind of relates to our comparison, especially today, because we've chosen a region of the United States, believe it or not,
I know, shocker, right?
that lives long.
Yes.
And so we're going to see, like, what's so special about this little region tucked away in California, and what might explain why they're living longer.
Yes.
But we do have to get started on one of our first recipes, I think, right? Do you want me to?
Sure.
Just in case, because we're being ambitious.
Yes. We definitely
Yeah.
could get started.
Let's knock one off the list. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 today.
Yeah.
Oh, what are we thinking?
I don't know. I saw your instructions and I was like, uh-oh.
All right, so we're going to start with the stuffed bell peppers.
Yes.
All right, and Debbie prepped me very well. But what we're going to do is just saute some onion and celery in some olive oil. What a great way to start almost any recipe. It's going to
Right.
smell delicious in here.
Right. And
Those
I think,
aromatics.
what is that in Louisiana? They have onion, celery, and I think carrot
Yeah.
and bell pepper.
Or bell pepper.
Or all of that, right? It's called the Holy Trinity.
The Holy Trinity.
So it must be 3 if it's a Trinity,
Yeah.
right? So
Like I was thinking of a mirepoix. Like
a mirepoix, carrot,
Onion,
celery,
celery.
onion. I think in Louisiana though,
they throw in the pepper once in
I
a
think
while.
they throw in the green pepper. Yeah.
But this is not, you know, we cut up the celery and the onion, but you'll find it in the grocery stores already chopped for you, which is a nice time saver. So we always like to point those things out too, that, you know, we could borrow ideas of the long living cultures, but let's put the American twist on it and take advantage of some convenient things.
Yes,
right?
so nice. And also we can find that frozen.
Oh.
Yeah, which we love.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
See?
frozen. I use the frozen often.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
throw it in.
I love that because, you know, what we like about frozen produce is that it retains most of the nutrition, and you don't have to rush to use it, right? Like chances are you'll minimize food waste because it's in the freezer.
Yes.
And it's perfectly nutritious, but also too, ready when you are. That's how I like to put it. All right, so we're gonna just saute these first, okay?
Gonna sweat them out.
Sweat, yeah. We're gonna make it smell nice in here.
Yep.
Our colleagues are gonna be like, what are you making?
They always say, what are
Save
you
us some.
making?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they kind of skulk around after wondering when we're gonna send out the email. It's like, help yourself to the leftover food in the kitchen. Yeah. They stand off camera and go, it smells delicious.
So while this is getting ready to saute, we're also gonna add some garlic to it, and then tomatoes, and then I'm gonna add in beans, quinoa, carrot, spinach, salt, pepper, veggie stock, and we're gonna let that simmer for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So once we get going on that, we can start our class today. But maybe first we review.
Well, I think we review the long living cultures.
Let's do that.
Okay. Yeah. So what makes these cultures so interesting is that a while back, people discovered that there were these kind of isolated communities that were, and the people were living really long, right? Last week, or 2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
we were exploring.
We went to Italy.
We went to Sardinia,
Sardinia,
Italy, and
yep.
they have the longest living males in the world.
Yes.
Incredibly, might have to do with the wine or the coffee or the lifestyle. Not sure why,
We don't know why.
but they have longest living male cultures, which is interesting because traditionally men have died earlier than females, right?
Yes.
And but they have a couple of things in common, right? These long living cultures. They live in communities that are relatively isolated, right?
That's so interesting, right? Like geographically isolated. Like our first class is Okinawa, an island, right?
Yeah.
Sardinia, Italy.
An island.
Yeah, so what happens is like just by circumstance, you know, they were sort of able to what we call incubate their habits and behaviors over a long period of time. They weren't easily influenced, by the outside forces like the
Yes.
American food supply. So they kind of retain what they've always known and pass it down generation to generation.
Yes,
Yeah.
and now we find that when these cultures are influenced and made by our kind of food, mechanized food,
Yeah.
processed food,
Like sort of food, not really food.
that it impacts their longevity and their health.
Yeah.
And we see that with higher rates of obesity, heart disease, cancers,
Yeah.
etc. So really you are what you eat, right? I mean, but not just that, you are what you eat, right?
Yeah.
So they've developed these isolated communities where they have been kind of forced because of their isolation to rely on local food supplies that they produce, right? That are a result of their environment.
Right.
And often they are not processed foods at all,
Yeah.
except if you call like sheep's milk processed or something,
about it.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also live in relatively rugged terrain, right? And not a lot of cars. They're old places, so the roads are narrow and not really conducive to cars. So we find they're physically active, right? They walk.
They're forced to be. Yeah,
They're
their environment
forced.
kind of shifts them in that direction where they are walking to go see a neighbor or to go, like in Sardinia, to go herd the sheep, and they're walking and it's hilly terrain. And that's just a part of their day to day. That's that's all they know. It's what they do. It's who they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And their lifestyle is very active, even if they're going into town to have a coffee or buy something.
Yeah.
They're walking and it's hilly and it's forcing them to be active more. And where we just jump in a car or wherever we go, really.
Yeah.
And especially in the Midwest, it's usually flat, right? It's usually pretty flat. So boy, double whammy for us. And they also are, a lot of them are isolated, and so they grow their own, a lot of times grow their own food,
Yeah.
right? So they're gardening, harvesting,
Yeah.
right? Shepherding.
Yeah, like it's like in Okinawa, that was a big part of their culture, but also in Sardinia, like they have herbs, that's what they flavor their food with. And so
And they forage for those.
yeah.
Yes, they grow locally.
And there's something to be said about like getting your hands dirty, and to like look for your own food, like what you're going to use to cook your dinner. I think there's like that connection is a really important piece of their relationship to food. Whereas we are so disconnected in a way, right? Like, we go to the grocery store, we have no idea where it came from. We have no idea the steps it took to get to the grocery store, to our plate. And I think there's a loss there, a little loss of appreciation, for what it really takes, So I think there's something to be said for that.
Well, when we get complacent, right? And we judge things as hard or work or, right?
Yes.
And in these cultures, food is a part of life. It's part of the rhythm of life, right? Gardening, going to the store, one store for meat, one store for herbs and spices, one store for this or that. And it's part of the rhythm of life, and cooking is part of the rhythm of life. And particularly because these are such isolated communities, they're very close knit, like small towns where everybody knows each other. They care for each other. They check on each other, the elderly in particular. They cook together and bake together. Close families and friends. They live close together.
Yeah.
Right?
They're not isolated at all.
No, and we find, of course, loneliness and isolation is like the scourge of our culture. We live close together, but we don't even know each other anymore.
Yeah.
And in these cultures, of course, they have a sense of place, and there's very little loneliness that they experience, right? They are caring for each other, gathering together, and especially over food, over cooking and sharing food. Right? So it's very healthy. There's connection, there's moving, right? There's cleaner food choices and simpler food choices.
Yes.
They tend to eat a lot of the same things, right?
Yes, which is something that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because I always talk about variety. You gotta get different foods every day if you want to be the most nourished, right? But what a great lesson, from each of these cultures, and especially today when we talk about with Loma Linda, is there really is this just reliance on the same ingredients because they were so resourceful with what the land provided for them, and that was good enough for them, and there probably are some special ingredients, like I think of this purple sweet potato. I think of the special wine in Sardinia, like that probably imparted some significant nutritional benefit for them, but it's enough, it doesn't have to be this elaborate, well planned out, super variety diet.
Right. Well, we find that, they're stocking their pantries with a lot of the same things day in and day out and using them. I remember this story that my husband used to tell me where his mom, he grew up on a farm in Louisiana.
He did?
Yes,
What?
ma'am, he did.
That's cool.
His mother used to cook cornbread for dinner.
Okay.
And then the next morning she would make a cereal or a porridge from her cornbread.
Oh my gosh.
And maybe add some other things into it and then serve it to the family for breakfast.
Yeah.
And so we find that's something that really good for us to think about, but also that these cultures tend to do that with the ingredients that they use.
And I imagine that creates sort of a rhythm. Do you know what I mean? Like
it does feel that way.
Like, especially if they're eating seasonally, like with the herbs, it's like you kind of know what to expect. Like this is coming. It's like there's so many good things about that. There's hope. Like that if you plant the seed, you get to cultivate it, and then you're gonna get to enjoy it. And there's a nice kind of rhythm through it all that brings about good health.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so today we are exploring Loma Linda, and Loma Linda, California is the largest concentration of the Seventh-day Adventists.
Yes.
Yes.
That's where they all hang out.
And that these have, we find in many faiths that there are dietary laws.
Yes.
Right. And so for the Seventh-day Adventists, they have very strict dietary laws that have actually proven to be extremely healthy for them. Right.
Amazing. Yeah.
And their church, Ellen White.
Her name's Ellen White.
Yeah.
What a revolutionary lady she must have been.
Yes.
In like the late 1800s. Right.
You want to talk about her a little bit?
She wrote the Councils on Food and Diet. I believe that's the title. Councils on Food and Diet. And apparently it's like this 400-page novel all about like dietary laws and dietary restrictions, all related to the creator. And so it covers everything, the types of foods to be consumed, how to prepare them, when to eat them. We're going to talk a little bit about that too, and why it's necessary to do these things, again, to support their health, but also in pursuit of their religion. Which is, I think that's sort of their own geographic isolation, right? Because it's the largest area in the country of Seventh-day Adventists. It's this community. So again, it's sort of incubating the behaviors, the habits, the customs.
Yeah, we often find people seek to be with others who are like them.
Yeah.
And so we often find clusters of people who have the same belief systems and dietary laws and customs.
Yeah.
Right. So this happens to be an area in California where the Seventh-day Adventists live. And they happen to have extraordinary lifespan, right? Extraordinary lifespan.
Amazing. Yeah.
And a health span, not just a lifespan.
Right.
And Ellen White,
yes,
she wrote a lifestyle. I mean, this book is about lifestyle, right? And one of the things that she talked about is, just looking at my note a little bit, that physical activity is a necessary aspect of lifestyle.
Did you really?
Yes.
What do you know?
Encourage strong family and community ties in all of the cultures, right? And in all of the cultures, there's an increased lifespan but a health span, right? Right. And they don't take supplements or anything, these long-living cultures, right? They usually get everything from lifestyle and food, right? Which is really how you practice, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't have to take much, but it's all about the lifestyle, and that's what explains good health. And we often sort of look for shortcuts or some way out of that healthy lifestyle. And taking a supplement.
Make it easy or something.
When we really need to probably just put forth a little bit of effort to pursue the lifestyle as close as we can as possible. And then a supplement is never going to compare. It's so far superior to any type of nutrition that we can get from food. Yeah. So yeah, I think that was going to take two. We know that has helped, right? And so going back to Loma Linda, there's been research done. So this is like the proof is in the pudding, right? We're not just trusting that these people are living into their hundreds and they have quality of life. They've studied this community since the early 2000s, and they followed like over 100,000 individuals. And they can track them, over 20 years' time to see what happens with their health, what happens if they get disease, what might explain that. And they see, compared to others living in our country, they are living longer, living better, they have quality of life, and then analyze what it is about their lifestyle. And then that might help explain what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit more on Ellen White, right?
Yes.
Because she wrote about sugar and salt.
Oh, yeah, she did. She was
Right.
not a fan.
Not a fan of sugar and salt.
We're not really the biggest fans of sugar and salt.
Yeah. Well, I like salt
I
a
do too,
lot.
Yeah.
So, but it's not necessarily good for us.
No, in
right? A lot.
excess, right? In
Right.
excess. But
Right.
the thought is with the capsules on food and diet is that, I mean, the way I perceive it is that it's almost like an obligation to adhere to these restrictions, because too much of anything, that's my interpretation, too much of them would burden the digestive system, but also, I don't know the right word to use, maybe be too stimulating for the emotions, right? And spark desire. And that is not looked upon positively in religion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And-
fascinating.
Yes. And many religions look on that, like the Buddhism
Similarly.
on greed,
Yeah.
right? And when we have too much sugar, too much salt, what do we want? More sugar, more salt.
Yeah. It's like, I've had a little bit. I want more.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
this way of living is what's the word I want?
I know we can find words.
It's a plain way of living,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it is based in community and prayer.
This is the one that I'm trying. Yeah.
It's primarily a vegetarian diet, and it's a simple life. They value simplicity.
Yes.
And being connected to the world and each other and God, and being as peaceful as possible. So they're trying to work with desire and stress and all these things, and are really required to be physically active. And many of the folks that were interviewed told the authors about very active lifestyles. Right,
Yeah.
over long periods of time, over a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they also take a full 24-hour Sabbath every week.
Every week. Yeah.
And we see that to de-stress and enjoy nature and share meals. So every week there is a potluck
Yes.
at church,
Yes.
where people bring customary dishes. And today we're going to explore a couple of those customary dishes, especially these stuffed peppers, which they seem to really like. And we'll do some others too. So they love to connect with each other, 24-hour Sabbath, spend time in nature, stay active, and those seem to be kind of consistent across the board when we come to these these long living cultures, right?
Yeah.
And we see in many cultures, many faiths, that there is a Sabbath. A lot of times we get away from that, right? But boy, how nice would it be to just kind of like shut everything off for 24 hours and just enjoy each other's company? You know, maybe take a walk or a hike and a nice meal, and maybe even go to church or whatever. Yeah, a nice day.
I was thinking the same thing. It's like almost a reset, like, our lives are hectic, right? And we need to almost dedicate time to just put that aside, and really, and I think again, like that connection, they're not doing it in isolation. They're all coming together to do this with one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a simple life.
It's
right.
simple. Yeah.
And it is also, that simplicity is also illustrated in their foods, which we're going to demonstrate.
So simple. I think that's the perfect word to use.
Yes.
In fact, that's what I wrote down when I took my notes, that the Loma Linda diet is very simple. It's almost plain. And I think that stands out amongst all the long living cultures. Like, I think with Sardinia, there was some flavor, there's some pop with these herbs and spices. And that's not what happens in Loma Linda. They don't actually use a lot of spices. So we're going to talk about that as we go through the recipes. We did incorporate some spice because we know that they're healthy for us. They impart healthful properties. So it's sort of like our twist or our spin on it. And that's what's so nice about most of these recipes too, are that you could put your own spin on them. You could add the level of spice that you are comfortable with or prefer. And it's going to be a good thing. It's going to work out in the end. But in Loma Linda, they have very few ingredients like we were talking about earlier. So they really rely on staple foods, and we're going to talk about them. And they really just eat with the seasons. So they do use their garden. They do, take advantage of local fruits and vegetables. And that's really a big part of what they're eating. And there's probably health properties to doing that as well. I like to think that it happens for a reason, right? The fruits and vegetables that are available to us in a season in our region are meant to be there. They're meant to be in our body because it's not just a coincidence. So I think there's something to be said about that. We don't really have a lot of science to support it, but maybe it's just a matter of time before we understand that. They eat, a lot of the Loma Linda individuals eat a vegan diet, a good percentage of them. Some do extensions of a vegetarian diet, so they may be pescado vegetarian, which means they have a little bit of fish. But for the most part, there's a big percentage of vegans in that culture. Yeah. Which is sort of not unlike the other long-living cultures where there is this emphasis on fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, lentils. We have a great superstar of a whole grain today in our quinoa. We're using that in several dishes. And again, it's just a few ingredients that have bang for buck in terms of nutrition.
Yeah, and we find, again, in this culture that we're not using a lot of cow products, right?
Right.
And that they'll use a little bit of cheese as like a condiment, but in the other cultures also they'll use like goat or sheep as a source of dairy.
Yep, their cheese and their milk.
Yeah, and even in Okinawa we saw very little cow's milk
Very
too.
little. Yeah. And it's almost like I look at it like a condiment, right? So it's not something that they have regularly, maybe a handful of times during the week in really small amounts. And all of our long-living cultures eat small amounts of food. We see that. They really eat just enough, just the right amount. And I think that's definitely was Ellen's approach, to the council on food and diet. Eat just enough. Don't overdo it, because then you're going to stress out your stomach. And we don't want that. Right. So that's a big part of the long-living cultures are just eating just enough, not overdoing it. And that's a good comparison to the SAD diet, where we tend to overdo it. We tend to feel overly full when we're eating our meals. We tend to not pay attention. We're not eating very mindfully.
Well, and moderation is part of the culture.
Yeah.
So it is valued.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm disciplined. And these kind of foods support a mindful type of eating, because when we eat processed foods, they really zing our brains, right? Like sugar and salt, right? And create this like greediness, or I want more, I want more, right? Because our brains are just zinging like crazy. And when you're eating foods with healthy fats and a lot of fiber and that are vegetable based, the brain responds a little differently, right?
Yeah.
Not as high fired. Right.
You can focus on the other responsibilities you have that day, other things you're going to do, and not be so consumed by the sugar, the salt, and the unhealthy fats. Definitely.
Yeah. So did you go through?
Not everything. So a little bit more about the Council on Food and Diet. So it's real low in red meat and dairy. And Ellen thought that this would reduce mental vigor, as she put it. And she also cautioned that there would be a time when there would be no safety in using eggs, milk, cream, or butter, because disease is increasing in animals. She wasn't far off. Like again, here it is, late 1800s, and she knew. And much of our antibiotic resistance is partly due to the fact that most of our antibiotics are used to keep our livestock. And gosh, what a toll that's taking on our health because of antibiotic resistance. But also too, it's taking a toll on the environment. And so we're seeing actually 80% of our agricultural land is for livestock, is for cows. 80% of it. Imagine.
Yeah.
And 30% of our agricultural water is used for livestock. 11 to 15% of our greenhouse gases come from livestock. So it's really taking a toll on our health, but also our planet's health. She also suggests, we touched on this a little bit, that sugar clouds the brain and brings peevishness into the disposition.
Well, I think we talk about it a little differently today.
Probably.
But I think we get what she's talking
Yeah, we'll take it.
about. We'll take it.
And so that's partly why, they are mostly vegetarian or vegan. They have lots of whole grains, fruits, nuts, veggies, legumes. The thought is that each of those foods contain everything we need, everything we could possibly need. We don't necessarily need to eat animals to get the nutrients that we can find in these plant foods. And she also thought that, the way she put it, one animal should not destroy another animal just for food.
Yeah.
Powerful. Yeah.
And look, I think the vegetarian faiths, the vegetarian lifestyle really is philosophically about that.
Yeah.
Right? It's about no harm.
Right.
Non-harming.
Yeah. And the other note that I took is that, well, there's a couple things actually. I put the more simple the diet, the better it is for you. That was sort of their approach to things. That they're, even with ingredients, it's just a handful in a recipe, not overdoing it, not overeating different, the potluck is the exception, but maybe just eating one or two different foods at a time, because that was, again, taxing to the system, and that it might overstimulate the brain too.
Yeah.
So it's truly mind body.
We're starting to hear that, right, in a couple of places, and we're not sure about the research behind it, but in this, that she believed this,
Yes.
right, way back when, and we did hear that associated with some other cultures.
It's amazing.
And so people are talking about that, that more of a variety is harder on the body.
Yeah.
Right. But we've always been told variety. So, but maybe that's more about like a variety of fruits and vegetables rather than
That's a good point.
a variety of meat and dairy and all this other stuff.
Right. And if you think about variety, maybe it's with the seasons, right? So that's how you can sort of easily, I think, associate variety. It's like, okay, what does the season present? What can I have? It's late summer, I can have my tomatoes. It's early fall. Maybe I'll have some winter squash in the late fall.
Yeah, so maybe we'll hear more about those simplified diets and some research around that. Stay tuned for that, right?
I'll be on top of it.
She will be on top of that.
The other thing the Loma Lindans do are that they eat their big meal earlier in the day.
Yes.
Yeah, so they tend to have really, and the idea is that would disrupt digestion and sleep. So they have their big meal real early in the day, actually.
They say eat breakfast like a
king,
lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper.
Yes.
I think Ellen White said that too.
I'm
right?
sure she came up with that. Ellen.
That Ellen.
I'm telling you.
I wish I knew her.
I know. I feel like I do.
Yeah,
We made it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and how are those coming along?
We're getting close. I just want to cook out the liquid.
Oh,
Yeah.
Take the top off.
Yeah, I'm just kind of popping it. But that's more research that we're looking at now, is intermittent fasting or a long overnight fast. We're finding that may be beneficial to us metabolically, that it definitely is conducive to better digestion. And we probably are meant to digest and metabolize our food earlier in the day. Like our systems are hardwired. Our biology, our physiology is meant to do that earlier in the day. So it's interesting how that just sort of now the science is catching up to that. And I think that's a big comparison or a way to contrast the SAD diet. Most people I work with, and myself included, I eat a big meal later in the day.
Yeah.
You know, or even after dinner, still eating. You know, when most of our Loma Linda cultures, they've kind of closed the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
No more eating.
Yeah. I think one of the other interesting facts about them, I think we reviewed pretty much everything, is that they really currently rarely use the microwave.
They rarely use the microwave.
Mhm.
I know.
So really, I think it's about simplicity, right? And trying not to get too mechanized, etc.
Right. Yeah. And they teach these lessons to the children early. You know,
Yeah.
those are some of the first things they teach the children is how to prepare food because that's they want to pass on that responsibility to them.
Well, and I think we find that in all of the cultures, right?
Yeah.
Where they involve family and everyone cooks or participates in the gathering of food and cooking it and preparing it and eating it.
Yeah.
This culture happens to have a rest day, which really is conducive to family, friends, and community, which is we find in all these cultures is so incredibly important.
Yeah.
Everything in moderation, exercise.
Move,
So
move, move.
again, across the board, all of these wonderful healthy habits.
Yeah. Definitely.
Did you want to? Can I get to this?
Yeah.
You think? Okay. So what I'd like to do is get this in the oven. This is called walnut taco meat. So of course they are.
They're not using ground beef for their tacos.
They're vegetarians, and they said to use avocado oil, but I'm going to use a little olive oil. And
So you could use whatever oil you like,
yeah.
right? Think of it as tacos.
And I've prepared some quinoa already, and I used some vegetable broth in the preparation of quinoa. And I'm going to put in the walnuts into the quinoa mixture. And I already measured out the spices, which are cumin, paprika, onion powder. I'm going to throw those in. And we just have these nice little, and chili powder. We have these nice packets of spices that we use. So they're really, really nice. Chili powder is so good. It's a really nice mixture. That's really good for a pantry item, right?
Yeah.
Right, just to have some chili. And I think chili powder, and I think one of the secret ingredients here is the lime, right?
Yeah.
And so we're gonna the juice of one lime in here. I love lime juice. I just love it.
Same. And the walnuts here, I believe, are raw and whole. You could put them in a processor or a blender and chop them up smaller if you prefer.
Well, they're a little chopped.
A little chopped.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can sort of play around with this a little bit too.
So I'm just stirring this all up. It smells delicious.
We probably could eat it like that.
I bet we could. And we're gonna put it on some parchment paper and bake it in the oven. And that's gonna be our meat replacement for tacos or wraps. It'd be delicious and wrap with avocado or something.
I love that idea.
So,
And this is nice because it's another passive recipe, right? So we're just gonna mix together and stick it in the oven for like a good 50 minutes, I think it is. But you could batch cook some quinoa, right? And I think that's what Debbie did.
I did batch cook.
Yeah, so if you have just plain quinoa or she cooked it with some vegetable broth and you have extras to use for whatever you'd like.
This is what it looks like. Into the oven.
Into the oven. And then I'm gonna actually stuff my bell peppers also. There's a little bit of liquid left. So I'm just gonna use a serrated spoon. Take out the solids. And stuff our bell pepper. And I love this too because this is gonna, so flavorful. But it replaces something like ground beef, right? So if you think about your traditional stuffed pepper, it probably has some ground beef in it. We're using some great cannellini beans in here. You could use anything you want for beans or lentils if you want it.
So I'm gonna set that for 30 minutes.
30
That goes
minutes.
in the oven for 30 minutes. And I'm gonna set it for 15 first,
Okay.
and then you toss it around after 15 minutes.
Perfect. Love it. And same with this too, like we're gonna have leftovers. It would be delicious to eat like this. Personally.
Well, let's taste that and see how it tastes. Right?
So far, we're 2 out of 5 recipes in. It smells great. It smells really good.
Both good.
Yeah.
Very flavorful.
And I mean, again, you can't go wrong when you have celery, onion, garlic. You can't go wrong. All good things follow. All right, so what we're gonna do is put these little foil caps on it, and then I'm gonna invert it. So it's gonna help cook the peppers even more.
Here, why don't I do that and you can get started with these.
Okay. This I turned off.
So what they're telling you to do here is take the top, wrap the tinfoil around, and then turn it over and cook it with the pepper on top. And so we've cut off these
So good. All right, so what I'm gonna work on are the quinoa breakfast bites. And I think we're gonna need a bowl. Yep, so I'm gonna take a large bowl, unless that's what this is.
that's what that's for.
Okay. And I gotta whip the eggs first. I'm just gonna whip them right in my measuring cup. So this is 2 whole eggs and then 2 egg whites. I think I'm gonna try and keep this clean. And then we're just gonna whip this and then add it to our cooked quinoa, and it's 2 cups cooked. And then we're gonna add all of our other goodies. So we have some zucchini, as well as bell pepper, green onion, some parsley. And then I'm gonna add some cheese. We have cheddar cheese here, but then I also thought, why not break out some nutritional yeast? We're gonna add that to some of the muffins too to give that a try. And we can talk more about that. All right, so there's that. And then we're gonna add our zucchini, parsley. And you could probably mix and match ingredients for this too. So if you wanted to use mushrooms or some other summer squash, you could put that in here.
And I'm just gonna put a little olive oil so that they don't stick.
You could use muffin liners if you wanted to for this.
I don't think we have those.
We probably don't have. Okay, so I'm just mixing this all together. So what's interesting about this is that, okay, we have some eggs in here, but there's only 2 whole eggs and 2 egg whites for our 12 whole muffins. We're taking advantage of another great protein source by using the quinoa. And it's still gonna come out great. The eggs are almost like the binder in this recipe.
Boy, the staff is gonna have so much fun today.
Yeah, this is so simple. I'm gonna
And
just,
you know, this would be a nice dish to bring to a potluck.
yeah. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper to this because our vegetable stock is low salt or no salt added. So we're gonna add a little bit of that in. I always try to sprinkle from high, that way it distributes evenly.
And why don't we talk about nutritional yeast and
Yeah.
quinoa too?
What I'm gonna do is mix some of this with the cheese and some of this with the nutrition yeast, and then I'll bring over the nutrition yeast so you can see. So we're just gonna spoon this into our pan. They ask for about a heaping tablespoon per muffin. I'm sort of eyeballing it. This is my style of cooking. I don't really like to do a lot of work. So it's good enough. If I'm baking different story, I might want to be exact with my measurements.
So good.
I'm so excited for this one. And we can't eat this one because of the eggs in it. But we'll make the rest. We have plenty to make more. This probably freezes well. I don't think that's on the recipe. But yes, you could freeze these. Sorry, it is on there.
Here, why don't I do that? And you can talk about,
So I was just gonna top like a
Okay.
little bit of that and a little bit of that.
okay.
So nutritional yeast. I'm gonna bring it over and then we're gonna top some of these with that. So it's inactivated yeast. And hopefully you can see this okay. Yeah. I just love it. It looks like fish food or like fish flakes. But you'll find this in most grocery stores, and it's a great source of nutrition with giving it a little bit of a cheesy flavor. So if we turn around, let's take a peek at this nutrition facts panel. So in 2 tablespoons, which we might not have that amount all at once, there is a good amount of protein. It's low sodium. And what I really like to point out are that they fortify it with these B vitamins. So for someone who's not eating maybe a little bit of red meat, you're going to get some B12 in 630% of what we need in a day if you ate 2 tablespoons. Now, not all nutritional yeasts are created equal. So I would encourage you, if you try any, just to turn and look at that nutrition facts panel, because not all of them will contain these added vitamins and minerals. But there's some potassium and the other B vitamins. Okay, so we're going to try this for our recipe today. We're going to shake a little bit on top. If we don't spill it. We could mix it right in too if we wanted. We could omit the cheese here.
And what else do you use this on, Laura? We have a recipe that we always introduce our people to, our microwave popcorn, right?
Yeah.
And nutritional yeast is so good on microwave popcorn. And this
Love it.
community uses nutritional yeast quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right? You find vegetarian communities use nutritional yeast, and they also use something else we're going to use, which is aminos.
Oh, I didn't know we were using them. Yeah, so nutritional yeast is great because it's a good topper. You know, just think about it like Parmesan cheese in a way. So I like to put it on my eggs, or if I made a scrambled tofu, but straight in a soup. You could make soft cheeses with it, like if you blend some raw cashews and add the nutrition yeast. It's almost like a queso dip, but without it's from cashews, the fat source, and then you get all these great vitamins from the nutrition yeast. Yeah, it's like a step up. It's an upgrade.
Yes.
All right, so should we move on to our next one?
Yeah.
We need 2 hands, I think, for these guys. So this one we've made in the past, and we brought it back because it's so simple.
And this dish, we got kind of caught up on, like, this dish I have made at home
You have?
and I've made a bunch of patties.
Yeah.
And then I just keep them in the fridge in a container. And
Yeah.
that way I can grab them for lunch, or we can have them for dinner. I'll warm them up in a pan. I haven't frozen them.
No, I wonder if they would freeze.
I bet they would
Yeah.
freeze. And I did use in this the bagged back black beans, which I think is kind of a cool product. It's not in a can.
I do too.
And but I word them up.
Mm.
And you know what I word them up
She
in?
word them up.
I word them up. No,
The
in the
spice grinder.
yes.
Cool.
Well, no, in the
Oh, the
NutriBullet.
NutriBullet. She used the NutriBullet. So
Yeah.
just process those through because we want them to be mashed. You could process them, and you could probably mash. Black beans are soft enough that you could mash them. Do a little bit of exercise there. So what we're gonna do is we have some sweet potato, which what we did is we just peeled it, or we put it in the microwave.
No, I didn't. There's no microwave with Loma Linda,
She's
Lori.
so authentic.
I was like, no, we're gonna stick to.
I would have done it the other way. Okay, so Miss Loma,
Yes.
Miss Ellen over here reincarnated.
You know what? They're gonna invite me to Loma Linda. They're gonna invite us. And
better.
they're gonna be like, Lori and Debbie.
What'd you bring to the potluck?
Right. And we're bringing the sweet potato hamburgers or patties.
They will know what hit them, and we're gonna say, listen, we didn't use the microwave. That's not
No,
allowed.
that's a no-no.
That's a no. All right, what we're gonna do real quick is I'm
I
gonna
peeled the sweet potato, cut them in little tiny chunks and boiled them really for like 10 minutes and then mushed them up.
I'm gonna take our old fashioned rolled oats. We have our
Blender.
yeah, but what is this called?
Vitamix.
Vitamix. I don't know one at home.
I don't need it.
This is powerful stuff. You could just use a regular blender or your processor or the coffee or spice grinder that could grind up your oats because these are essentially going to be our breadcrumbs. Okay.
Yeah, and imagine, rather than using white breadcrumbs that we buy at the store,
Yes.
imagine using rolled oats, right? Just pulsing them up. And you could, again, batch those also and keep them in a sealed container. What?
Save the zucchini. I took it out. Sorry.
Use them in the container, put it in a container. And then what a great binder rather than just white bread.
That's why I love rolled oats, old fashioned, because you can have them any way that you want to prepare them. But we love that for this application. So the sweet potato is basically mashed in here, and I added the mashed black beans with our salt, pepper, onion powder, a little bit of cumin, paprika. We use smoked paprika, which is really going to add a nice.
So delicious.
Yeah. It's gonna be amazing. And then we're gonna add, then there's some chipotle, cumin if you want, and then we're gonna add the oats to this. And we're gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes. I'm only gonna add a little bit right now, because I wanna see how it comes out.
Yeah.
We're gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes to let those flavors marry. And then what I'm gonna do is form patties. I'm just gonna get my hands dirty, form some patties, and then we're gonna saute them on the stove top.
Yeah, sounds great.
So simple, I think this recipe. So
And
simple.
we're using some really good spices actually and really good oils.
Yeah.
And that is also some ingredients, high quality ingredients, right? That we find preserve the nutritional value of things, right?
Yeah.
Like how about pepper, right?
That's the
using that-
thing. Yeah, like there's some real appreciation for the quality of the ingredients. It's going to impart nice flavor. Chances are it'll impart better nutrition because it'll be more fresh. And that matters, right? So if you think about food and what you're going to put into your body that way, that's what these long living cultures do. They have a high regard for the quality. They're only going to put quality into their body. I can respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And that is actually part of the commitment that they make to food.
Yeah.
There is an attitude of quality.
Yeah.
Right?
Love that.
And a commitment to that. And we've talked about that quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Where, we tend to not take the food, we tend to take our food for granted.
Yeah.
A lot of times, right? So like if you go to the grocery store and you see the 99-cent strawberries, right? You throw them on the counter in the fridge when you get home.
Yeah.
Right? What happens a lot of times?
99 cents. It ends up being moldy. Then I end up throwing it out.
Yes.
It's only 99 cents, man.
But when you buy the $5 strawberries,
I'm going to make sure I take very good care of those precious little babies.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, and maybe those are the organic ones or whatever,
probably,
right?
yeah.
Now, we want food to be affordable for everybody,
Right.
right? So we encourage you to buy high quality ingredients in season,
Yeah.
right? And they tend to be more economical, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're coming up on our last recipe.
I can't believe it. I'm gonna form the patties and then just saute them, so you'll see.
Oh, do you want to go ahead and start that while I flip the
quinoa taco meat.
the meat?
And you could probably make these to any size you want. Like if you want to like make little sliders, that would be a nice little appetizer.
So boy, everything in this oven is really sizzling away.
As always, it smells amazing.
And here so I'm just gonna stir this around.
Oh yeah, that's real good. I've made this before just using actually jarred salsa. That's where I got my flavor. So I would just add the quinoa, the cooked quinoa with the walnuts.
And I might grind the walnuts up a little finer next time, but
Yeah. See, it's like just sticky enough. But we're just gonna saute them a couple minutes each side. I've got lots here.
So now we will start. I guess I should turn my
We don't need the
timer off. Yeah. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to start with our TLT Sammy.
TLT.
What? Yeah, rather than a bacon, lettuce, and tomato, right? We're using what?
Ellen would be so proud. So we're gonna swap out that bacon. My father would be not happy, but I would still try it on him. So instead of bacon, we're gonna use another plant protein, and that's tempeh. And what's so great about tempeh is that it has a nice firm texture. It's whole soybeans that are fermented along a grain or multiple grains. So I believe that product.
Just gonna show them. This is it comes in a cake.
In a cake, yeah.
And this is it cut into the strips that the recipe calls for and marinated. It's kind of a whitish gray color. It doesn't look that appetizing.
It doesn't, and the way they make it is with a mold. So it doesn't sound appetizing at all, but it has a really great texture, and tempeh will hold up to a high heat. So you can even grill tempeh, but we're gonna saute it. And so that's gonna give it, and the marinade we use when Debbie explains it.
Well, yeah, it's a delicious marinade, and it looks like this. You can see, and it's been sitting for about an hour and a half, so it's nice and marinated.
Yeah.
And the marinade is using balsamic vinegar and these coconut aminos. Do you want to talk about those, Laura?
Sure. So coconut aminos are made from coconut sap, and they're lower in salt. They're a good substitute if you're interested for something like soy sauce. They have their own flavor. It doesn't taste like soy sauce, but it's close, and they're very low. It's very low in sodium. So if that's something you're watching, it's just something to think about.
And we also, the recipe calls for some maple syrup. And we do use a little maple syrup for a little bit of sweetness.
Yeah.
And boy, maple syrup is so good.
We love it.
Yeah. So we made the marinade, we steamed the tempeh, and we're gonna just grill or brown the marinated tempeh on the in the frying pan.
Yeah. And I always explain, I always explain that I steam the tempeh. So I just get like one of my strainers, fine mesh strainer, and I put it over a pot of boiling water for 20 minutes on each total. So 10 minutes each side. And steaming the tempeh opens up the pores. Mm-hmm. So it reduces a little bit of the bitter flavor that you might pick up on with tempeh, because again, it's fermented. So it has that kind of a little bit of a bite, a little bit of bitterness. So that steaming it will help lower that. And it also opens it up so that it soaks up all that great marinade. So it actually will be a little bit more flavorful that way.
And we're using olive oil, but we're also using grapeseed oil.
Grapeseed oil.
Yeah. And tell us about that, Laura.
And I like it because it's a nice neutral oil. So, and it holds up to high heat. Certainly healthy. Any plant oil is a good choice. Okay. A lot of people ask great questions about avocado oil versus canola versus vegetable oil. What do I use when I cook? I think use whatever. They're all great. Olive oil seems to be superior. So try to get your hands on a nice quality olive oil like we have here. But they're all great and they all have different applications in terms of flavor, I would say.
Yes.
Right. So grapeseed's super neutral, so it would work well. We don't want to use olive oil on this. I would.
Why is that?
I think it would compete with flavor, right? Like we're trying to kind of make like a bacon.
This
So-
is still heating up.
I'm going to give these guys a flip.
And so we are not going to make a sandwich out of this today.
Okay. Yes.
And so, but we have sliced up some avocado. You could put romaine lettuce, but we are going to use some spinach
Yeah.
and tomato, and we'll probably just make a platter out of it. But certainly you could use a nice piece of whole grain bread, toasted, and just layer this up. Either the patties or these, you could layer those up.
Yeah.
Make a sandwich.
That'd be
But
delicious.
also put these on top of a salad.
Sure.
Or, yeah.
Yeah, I would even keep those strips and have it alongside my scrambled tofu in the morning. It's like
Yeah.
a soy bomb.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'd be good with a potato. It'd be
Yeah.
great with grilled veggies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have to flip the pepper soon. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So,
We need another sous chef in here. And these are just browning up nicely. I lowered the heat a little bit because I don't want to steam up the camera. So we're going to let it sit for a little bit.
no, I think I need a little more time.
And we're doing okay on time here too, yeah. I can't wait to eat the tempeh. I love it. And this is one of my favorites too. So we brought these back from last class because they were really such a hit. And I think so easy to make. Honestly.
Okay, so finally the stove is warmed up. We are challenged by the stove sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But I love tempeh. I
Same.
love it.
Yeah.
I think it is like meaty,
Great texture.
great texture. It's satisfying.
Yes.
And with this marinade, it's going to be just great. So excuse my fingers. I'm just gonna.
It's a little like a touch sweet, salty, savory. It's a nice marinade.
And so we're using kind of a high heat because we want to sear these and just warm them through. It doesn't really require a lot of cooking. I turned the heat down because I had it pretty high.
Yeah, it's only like a couple of minutes each side. Ready? Let me go.
You need some
Yeah.
Mira and
2
everything.
to 3 minutes on each for each side, so it cooks pretty quickly. We got a little sizzle going on.
Yeah, I think you could use this marinade.
On other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's cool about, like, hopefully you're learning a little bit of that as we go through. Like, if you like the marinade for this, then you could use it on chicken, or you could use, trying to think, you could do tofu and marinate your tofu with the marinade. And so, use them in a more versatile way, in more ways than one. And that's like a nice way to cook, like hopefully that's what you're getting from us too, that doesn't add complexity. You're using the same marinade, but using it just in different applications. Right?
Yeah. So we're just waiting for some things to kind of finish up. I
Yeah.
think we have a couple of questions maybe. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask?
Big patty.
Is there a soap for walnuts you would suggest?
Soak the walnuts?
Is there a substitute?
Oh, you probably could use any nut. Cashews?
Well, you could. But
Comes
if
to
you
mind.
wanted to make like a taco substitute, like a red meat, ground beef substitute, could you crumple some tempeh up and season it in that way?
Yes, that's how I love. I would still steam the tempeh first, but then you could crumble it up, and it's ground meat basically. So then you marinate it with whatever you like, right? So if you want to do a taco filling, it would be the similar spices we use for that. And that's what's so versatile about that ingredient for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really does have an amazing mouthfeel, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's why it's a good substitute for meat. You know, some people they miss that part of, you know, meat, especially ground meat. In that it's more than just the flavor, it's like the texture, the mouthfeel, you know. So playing around with different ingredients, it just might open up some more doors for you. Are we saying you need to avoid ground meat altogether? No, but you can see how making steps away from ground meat will be beneficial for you. We know this is important for nutrition and good health. We see with the Loma Linda Adventists that they have low rates of heart disease, of diabetes, of Alzheimer's disease, and some types of cancer. So that research really is supported by their lifestyle, but their diet plays a big part of that lifestyle. Some people, some experts don't think that we need to be vegan necessarily to get the benefits, but we need to be thinking about having a lot of whole plant foods in our diet as much as we can. They're going to impart great nutrition. They're going to help us eat less so we can maintain a healthy weight, right? So just keep that in mind.
I think some of that nutritional yeast would be really good on top of these peppers.
Even better.
Okay, add one. All right.
Everything's looking good, but quinoa, that looks good. Yeah. And these guys, I'm going to give these a flip for her. I'm just browning up my burgers, taking my time. We're just sitting here talking. I could turn up the heat and cook them a little bit faster.
So this is done, and I'm going to put it in the bowl so you all can see it.
We're like really like sauteing some bacon. Like that's what I feel like. It sounds like it, smells like it. You could probably even use these like on Debbie mentioned a sandwich, you know, or alongside something else. I could see like wrapping these up again with like the mashed avocado. We have some spinach.
And so here is our taco meat.
And with the taco meat, again, you can have it like you would tacos, or, you know, you could put it on top of a salad. You could wrap it up. You could put it in a bell pepper. It's a nice kind of, again, versatile ingredient. More than one way to enjoy the taco meat.
Oh, I wish you guys could see how lovely and brown these are getting.
Brown up, yeah. Yeah.
Really nice. The texture is going to be great. Right. Boy, I wish we could share this with you guys today. It's really, I can't wait till we can do that.
I know.
All right, so just another minute or two. And you want to plate those up?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this you can top with what we have here are is salsa verde.
Now, one of our people who was helping us with the program today, she brought some of the salsa verde from someone who made it for us.
Special.
So
It's special salsa verde. But
maybe special salsa verde.
you could use jars from the grocery store. It's a nice way to just, again, enhance a little bit of flavor on top of this. You could just use the mashed avocado again. You know, use what you like. I think it adds a nice color, right? Because this is otherwise kind of orangey brown, and then we're going to add the pop of green to it. Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can always, we have our little condiment tray with tomatoes and avocado, and you can always use that. We're going to use some of this to plate up the tempeh, which is, this is spinach and a little avocado and some tomato. Really a lovely plate.
I would love sliced red onion. I'm a big fan of onion, so I think that would work really well with this too.
And you can see how beautifully brown and marinated this tempeh is. It looks fabulous.
We're working on our presentation skills as well. We're making it look fancy. Special.
So that's beautiful. Isn't that just beautiful?
I think so too, yeah.
Yes.
And so these guys, I actually quartered the burgers. I made some big ones. And then just put a little bit of that salsa verde on top.
All right, let's see what we got. Finish it up in the oven, Mark.
Do we have questions?
Let's see. Anybody have any questions for us while we're getting the last bits of stuff out of the oven? What are we doing next time?
We're going to Greece, your favorite. We're going to Greece.
We are going to Greece. Yes.
That's okay.
So these are our peppers. And boy, they look really nice. And I definitely would put, some, oh shoot, I dropped one. I definitely would put some nutritional yeast on top.
Shake it right on
those.
top. Oh, yeah.
So these are the stuffed pepper. And now we have our egg bites.
Gonna pop them out. This isn't one we've made before. So they're falling apart a little bit. Probably needed to stir them a little bit better with the eggs.
There we go. Nice.
Take out another good one. Try it. And I think these are pretty too, like visually, just with the color. Want another one or?
And so like you can, I'm just going to pick this one up real quick and you can see how you could bring this as a meal for work. Really a nice, healthy alternative. Egg bites.
Yeah, and you can freeze them. I think we mentioned that. So they'd be great to meal prep, right? We actually have quite a bit more left over. We'll make another 12 of them and freeze them for a few months. They all taste really good. Well, I had that.
Yeah, so you can, I wanted to get a good one out and I messed it up too. So
Yeah, their hearts kind of.
I think it'd be much easier with liner.
Yeah,
There we go.
again, I don't think I mixed the egg in very well. I should have done a better job with that. Guilty. That one came out okay.
Well,
These would be great as like a snack, breakfast. I mean, part of a meal. It would be great.
let's see. Anybody have any questions? Okay. So that's kind of Loma Linda.
Loma Linda.
And boy, we got a lot done today, didn't we?
We did.
And we hope you enjoyed learning about Loma Linda. We did.
Yeah.
I think next presentation will be our most fun for me anyway, because I love Greece and I kind of wish I was Greek.
Yes.
I'm not.
This is so yummy.
But I kind of wish I was Greek. And boy, you know, I took my daughter to Greece. We took a 2-week trip to Greece, and when we got there, we were so tired every day because it's a hilly country,
Yeah.
and we were walking up and down and up and down. I can just imagine living in a place like that, how it would just naturally keep you active and in shape and moving. Yeah. So anyway, think about the main things that we talked about today. right? A vegetarian or a plant-based diet,
Simple.
limiting amounts of meat and dairy.
Yep.
Keeping it simple, right? Keeping it simple but delicious. And you can see these ingredients. Branch out. Try to use some tempeh and experiment with it with the marinade. The marinade is delicious. I personally, my favorite, I'm going to try the peppers, but really my favorite are the sweet potato burgers. I love those and the beans. Yeah, those are so good. So remember, try to move a little more. Try some new healthy food options
Get into the kitchen. Cook with your family.
and
Yeah.
connection.
Connect
Yeah,
with one another.
right.
Yeah.
And especially after this time, so many people are talking about how lonely they've been and how they have to kind of learn how to be with people again. I know it, and it's like a little bit of an effort, right? To like be with people when you
Sometimes.
haven't. Yeah. Well, not with you, but
Never.
yeah, but with sometimes.
But I feel like we never left each other.
No, we didn't.
No.
No, we didn't.
And we wouldn't let that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we but try to kind of think about those things that makes people happier and healthier, and try to do a little better in your own life to try to make that happen. Yeah.
Reach out to your neighbors.
Yeah. Get
Yeah.
out of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Good to see everybody. 2 weeks for I carry a grease.
Yeah,
that's
a good class. Yeah.
That to me is the best one.
Yeah.
So hope to see you all there.
Try these. Let us know what you think.
Any questions, you can email Lori and I.